Everyone who said that Nintendo was pushing for this all-digital gaming future was absolutely wrong. And this narrative was being pushed so heavily online that I almost started to believe it for a moment myself. And this video isn't about defending Nintendo, the billion-dollar corporation, or making them look like the good guys out here, but I just think it's more relevant to talk about than ever after the news of Sony announcing that they're going to discontinue, physical games after 2028, coming right after they just removed over 500 digital movies from people's libraries in the UK that these people had already paid for. So there's definitely already going to be a lack of trust there. But I want to talk about Nintendo because Nintendo was being made out to be this big bad company that wanted to get rid of physical media and was trying to force digital onto us. And that narrative was always completely false. And I want to talk about why. So of course, this narrative, false narrative of Nintendo pushing for an all-digital future started after they introduced what are called game key cards. These are basically a kind of compromised physical media that were intended to be used for games that weren't going to fit on a true 64 gigabyte cartridge to give third parties more options. But obviously you have a lot of stuff like this where it says 47 gigabyte full download. So Sega could have invested and put this game on a true cartridge, but they chose not to. They didn't want to invest the money. Maybe they wanted to keep the price of the game down. So they said, we'll put it on a game key card. I think that's why myself and a lot of people really dislike these key cards, because I think if these companies gave us consumers what they want and actually maybe followed Nintendo's strategy by pricing the digital games cheaper than the physical and at least giving us the option to buy the physical cartridges when possible, I think game key cards would not be nearly as hated so much. But the reason Nintendo came up with this option is because, of course, there are going to be games that are too, big and massive nowadays. With the way technology has advanced and these game file sizes have gotten bigger, they're not going to fit on the cartridge. So a game key card is needed. But something else is definitely at play. A lot of these third-party companies just do not want to invest the $15, $10, whatever it is in a true physical cartridge. So they cheap out, they put their games on a key card. And Nintendo definitely knows that, and they're doing this for a reason, because if you look at Nintendo history, the N64, for example, those cartridges stopped them from getting a lot of third-party support because it was just hard for companies to put their games on those cartridges, and it was very expensive for them to invest in buying those cartridges. Then you could circle ahead to the next generation, to the GameCube, where their media was on these little tiny discs. And same thing, a lot of companies just had a hard time optimizing and fitting their games on those tiny discs. So because of this, those consoles kind of failed compared to the competition, especially the GameCube. And Nintendo definitely did not get good third-party support at all on those console generations. Now, Nintendo does have a lot of their own first-party exclusive games, but when you look at their most successful consoles, the Nintendo Wii, the Nintendo DS, the Nintendo Switch, even though the Nintendo Switch didn't get a lot of, big third-party games, it had great third-party support, and Nintendo can absolutely not be their most successful without good third-party support. So this was all made for third parties. If Nintendo was really pushing for an all-digital future, you would see all their first-party releases on game key cards, but you don't. They promise that all their first-party IPs will be put on a true physical cartridge. Now, you could say something like Pokemon Pokopia. That's a first-party Nintendo title, and it is, but it isn't. Nintendo obviously owns a share of that IP, but they licensed it out to Koei Tecmo and gave them the option to do whatever they wanted with it. And Koei Tecmo opted for a game key card. And Nintendo's just not, in my opinion, I think they should be a lot more hands-on with Pokemon, like with what happened with Scarlet and Violet. I think after that, Nintendo should get involved in the development and everything, because Game Freak has been pretty sloppy with the IP, but they're just not as hands-on with that IP as they are with their own first-party developed titles. But now I do want to take a moment to talk about why game key cards are actually not the worst option for players and gamers and even collectors out there if you prefer to play your games on a Nintendo console at any point for any reason. But I do want to clarify that I still don't prefer game key cards, and I still haven't been convinced that I should pick these up at full price on day one, especially with the backlog of true physical games that I do have, because I've always been the kind of person that will always pay full price for a true physical game. But as far as digital games go, I'm usually only willing to get them on dirt cheap sales, and I still view game key cards kind of like digital games because they don't contain the full game on the cartridge. They do give you a license that lets you download the game, and then after that you can play it offline just like any digital game that you own in your library. You don't have to be connected to the internet. They can't take it away from you, but I don't think they're the worst option out there because they still do give a bit more ownership. I can still take this game key card into GameStop and get some trade-in value. I can still take it to my local mom and pop retro store and trade it in for another game, and I can still put it on eBay if I wanted to do that and sell it on there. So these definitely aren't the worst thing. I mean, I know some people say, oh, it's just a compromised version of digital media. Why would you even need that? Well, maybe some people like me, we like to try out a lot of different games, and if we don't like them, well, we don't need them in our collection. We can just trade them away, get some of our money back, and game key cards give you that option. So they're definitely not the worst thing. And if you think so, I can understand that for you, but can you understand maybe for me and other people why they're not? But if I can say one more thing about these key cards, I do just want to say that I think a lot of these companies like Sega and Square Enix are leaving a lot of money on the table. I think if you could fit especially some of your RPGs that fans are really passionate about, like Sega, you have Atlas. If you could get these SMT games and these Persona games on a true cartridge, I mean, you could charge full price. You could charge 70. You could include the DLC, charge 80 for that cartridge, and I guarantee you, you will get good sales. You will make good profits. So I really think these companies are selling themselves short by being afraid to invest in some of these IPs that fans are passionate about. I mean, look at what Nintendo's doing with Fire Emblem. Personally, I don't like it, and I can't act like Nintendo's the most innocent company out here either, because I feel like they are trying to nickel and dime and get fans to pay $80 for every franchise that they know they have enough passionate fans about. Because with Fire Emblem, the new Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, they're going to charge 70 for the digital and 80 for the physical. And obviously they don't have to do that. Splatoon Raiders, they're only charging 60. Star Fox, they only charge 60, but they know that fans are really passionate about Fire Emblem and they're going to pay full price, whatever they ask. And I'm included in that. I can't lie. I do love a good Fire Emblem game, but I definitely see you, Nintendo, trying to get all the money you can out of me. I don't like it, but I mean, it is what it is. At least Nintendo is delivering the games and the products that people actually want and not investing in a bunch of live service slop that nobody wants or trying to push all these ideology games that nobody wants. But one last point that I want to make about Nintendo actually not pushing for an all-digital future is because that would totally be to their own detriment. Physical media is just too big in Japan in every way, shape, and form. They still buy music CDs, they still buy DVDs and Blu-rays heavily out there, and definitely video games. And also, if you look at the software sales of the Nintendo Switch, I believe if it's not number one, it's definitely up there as one of the consoles that has the most software sales of all time, and that was definitely heavily pushed by physical game sales in there as well. So it would definitely not be for Nintendo's own benefit to try to push an all digital future. I think if it did get to the point where Nintendo isn't able to fit their physical media on cartridges, if they continue to go with these handheld hybrid consoles, I think at the very least they would still offer their own game key card option if that's what they have to do, because they know it would really bite them to go all digital. And even though this isn't related to the physical digital discussion, I just want to say Nintendo definitely has the most sustainable business model out there by just investing in their IPs, even the ones that don't sell the best, like Rhythm Heaven Groove and even Metroid here. There's never been a Metroid game that has sold above 3 million copies, but Nintendo continues to invest in their own IPs, and they continue to do so realistically. They're not chasing what Sony is chasing and investing $1 billion in every game and trying to make every game have this crazy movie budget. They just make realistic investments and give people the games they want, and it seems to be paying off. And I wish that Sony and Xbox, these other companies, would do the same thing, because at the end of the day, that's all gamers want. We just want the games. Not everything has to be this huge $1 billion budget game. But I would like to know other people's perspective on this topic, on this discussion. Do you agree with me? If you don't, it's okay to be wrong. But if you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already. Please hype up the video, and I will definitely look forward to catching you all on the next one.